The pads are coming on today for the first time at Jets training camp. What are some of the things to look for as the pads come on? And we're another day closer to the Jets and the Browns in the Hall of Fame game. That and much more is what we're talking about in today's Jake Asman Show. My guest is Jets YouTuber Matt O'Leary. So let's hit it and get it started. Damn, does it feel good to have a Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Another freaking game. Y'all fought your asses off. That was awesome.
Now that's what I call a hard knock.
You know, I understand the appeal with us. There's a lot of eyes on me, a lot of eyes on our team, a lot of expectations for our squad. So they forced it down our throats, and we got to deal with it.
Hit it! We have Garrett Wilson. Let's freaking go. We have Brees Hall. We are ready to win. Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super chat, baby. Cut the line. We have an elite defense. You're welcome on the Jet bandwagon. Now, let's talk about the New York Jets. This is the Jake Asman Show. Here we go. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Jake Asman. Hope you're having a good Tuesday so far. Got a great show in store for you today as the Jets put the pads on for the very first time. And joining me right now is someone as plugged into the Jets as anyone. You can check out all his Jets coverage on his YouTube channel, Matt O'Leary. And why Matt O'Leary joins the show. What's up, Matt? Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, Jake. Thank you so much for having me on today.
So we'll get into some of the big takeaways from camp so far. Certainly want to talk about the pads going on for the first time. But you and I have been all over the Jets throwback jerseys for years. So what was your reaction seeing it really become official yesterday when the Jets posted these photos?
Yeah, we got the little teaser last week in the grainy leaked video, but hard to tell what it was going to really look like. I think they knocked this out of the park. I love the white with the white pants. I think the logo on the side of the helmet is absolutely perfect. I mean, I have it over my shoulder for a reason. It's my favorite Jets logo. So seeing that back on the uniform, I think it was a home run, long overdue by the New York Jets and Woody Johnson. But I can't wait to see it out under the lights in opening week.
Yeah, it's crazy that it's going to be week one. They're wearing it. Then they're wearing it again week 4. And then that's really it as far as the throwback jerseys go. Would you like to see it become the permanent home jersey? And then obviously they could add, the Kelly green color scheme next year so they could mix and match, so to speak, road, home, however they want to play it.
Yeah, I think that's the move. I mean, this is the last year that the Jets have to stick with their current uniform. I think it's every 5 years you're able to change your jerseys. And unless something magical happens, I think this one, unfortunately, will have the Gase stink and the Zach Wilson stink on it. So if they want to change it up and go with a more retro look, I think the fan base would be all over it. I don't know too many people who love this uniform conversation, this uniform combination that they have. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if they end up switching it.
You look at, obviously, the expectations and the hype from the fans. I mean, did you buy a bunch of merchandise yesterday? Were you among the thousands upon thousands of Jet fans that was buying, T-shirts, sweatshirts, jackets, and, of course, the jerseys, which I will say they are expensive. But if you're going to make a jersey purchase, it feels like this would be the one to do.
Yeah, both me and my sister pulled the trigger on a new jersey. We were texting about it. She's a big Jet fan too, so I immediately sent it to her. I'm like, I already pulled the trigger on a Rodgers jersey, and she goes, "Oh, good, I pulled the trigger on a Garrett Wilson jersey." So that's 2 right there from the O'Leary family. But yeah, we both loved it, and we hopped in on it immediately.
No doubt about that. All right, let me ask you this as we kind of look ahead now. There's some Jet storylines involving training camp and everything going on. Pads are going on today. Is there something you're looking to see or find out about as the Jets will now, from this point going forward, start playing, quote unquote, real football, or as real as you could play in 2023, given some of the limitations with practice?
Yeah, I know it. I feel like we've beaten this one to death, but I'm still really excited and interested to see how this offensive line plays out. I mean, no Dwayne Brown yet, so they've kind of mixed and matched on the left tackle. You had Billy Turner get some reps. You've had Mekhi Becton get some reps. So I'm really curious to see, with the pads coming on, it becomes a little bit more real. You got a little bit of a peek on what they might be looking to do in the first few practices, but you can only learn so much early on. And, we'll probably know more even after, the first couple of preseason games. We'll get a better idea for how this offensive line is going to end up shaking out here. But I think, the trenches to me is the most interesting part when the pads get on.
You look at the offensive line, there still continues to be a lot of chatter about a Mekhi Becton trade. There's been multiple beat reporters who have seemingly intimated that, it might not work here for Becton, and, the Jets could look to trade him before the season starts. I'm not quite sure where this is coming from, because if you're the Jets and you suffered catastrophic injuries on your offensive line a year ago, even if you don't believe in Mekhi Becton long term, you can't sell me that you're a better team by trading him away when you're a win now team.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like you said, even if he's not a part of the long-term plans, there's no way that you go through what you went through last year with the number of injuries and the number of specifically offensive tackles that they used. What was it, 7 starting offensive tackles between the 2 spots and all the injuries? It's crazy how injured they were at the position. And, even if he doesn't win a starting job, let's say, I'm sure he's not going to be happy, but you'd be selling at the absolute lowest point. I think his ceiling is too high to just completely, ditch for nothing. I think he would have value on this roster, even if they don't believe in him long term, like you said.
Yeah, it's just odd because, here's a guy that obviously hasn't played in 2 years, but when he did play as a rookie, he looked pretty good. And now he's in the best shape of his life. Like, why wouldn't you want to at least see what he could do? So, like, it's been Samini, Connor Hughes has intimated it, Costello has intimated it. I don't quite get it because, once again, if Mekhi Becton does not win a starting job and they're more comfortable going with Billy Turner or Max Mitchell, you can't tell me you're going to find a better swing tackle, better potential backup than Mekhi Becton, unless he's like a cancer in the locker room, and that's not anything you hear about the guy. I really don't understand these rumors that, they could trade him by the end of the summer.
Yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I get it. I know he wants to play left tackle. I'm sure he wants to start again, but he's too valuable to this Jets team. As you said, even if he is just a swing tackle to start out, injuries happen. We've seen it, unfortunately, all too often with this football team. So I don't get it at all. I think you keep him.
What are your overall thoughts on this offensive line? Like, in an ideal scenario, how would you picture the line opening night?
Yeah, I think Dwayne Brown, obviously, assuming he gets healthy in time, I think it's pretty obvious he's going to be the left tackle. I don't think he comes back to either be a backup or change positions after 15 years. Laken Tomlinson then at left guard. I think Tippmann has a really good shot to win that starting center job. So I'll say he starts at center, AVT and Mekhi Becton starting at right tackle. I know they like Billy Turner, but I just think the ceiling with Mekhi Becton's better. I think you got to try your best to get the best 5 out there. And I think that would be, the Jets doing just that.
Dwayne Brown, I think they're clearly going to work back slowly. So there are reps out there for a Becton, for Max Mitchell, for Billy Turner. Like, there's a lot of spots, a lot of reps for guys on this team. It's a Super Bowl team, but there's an unknown outside of probably left guard and right guard what exactly the top 5 linemen would be opening night.
Yeah, it's really strange to say that, right? Because you'd think that it if you have Super Bowl expectations, that your offensive line would be kind of ironed out. And I think there's such a big variance with how good this offensive line could be. Like, if everything goes right, Laken Tomlinson kind of gets back to form with the 49ers. Joe Tippmann comes in as good right away. Becton looks good. Dwayne Brown's healthy and AVT's doing his thing. The line could be really, really good. But if things start to go poorly, guys can't stay healthy, it could look pretty ugly quick. So I really think that's going to be the big thing here with this offense and how good they're going to be, protecting Aaron Rodgers, opening up holes in the run game. To me, it comes back to the offensive line. So I think that's why we keep talking about it.
If you have a question for Matt O'Leary to answer, submit those in the comment section. We'll wrap up our show in just a little bit with some Q&A, but more topics to get into with you, Matt. You look at Aaron Rodgers and all the hype and all the hoopla surrounding him once the deal was made, and he's done everything right as far as embracing New York and ingratiating himself to this Jets fan base. But now that he's actually out there on the field and we're seeing crazy throws and unbelievable highlight plays, I know it's just practice. What have been your thoughts as it hit you that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback of the Jets?
Yeah, it's starting to feel a little real, like the throw to Corey Davis on Saturday, and then on Sunday you had the unbelievable throw to Garrett Wilson in the back of the end zone. It's like, okay, wow, like we're not used to seeing Jets quarterbacks do this. And Aaron Rodgers, granted, it's early, but he's proven that he's not washed. That's not, the end of the road for him. So it's hard not to get super excited for the regular season coming very soon. With just his play and how he could elevate this roster. I think that was the biggest thing that we were all so excited about when the Jets landed him, was just what he can do to the rest of this team just with his presence in here. And I think he's lived up to the hype so far early on.
The throw to Corey Davis was just absurd, right? Like that was just insane.
Yeah, he put it in literally the only spot that ball could be, a perfect spot. And credit to Corey Davis for going up and making the contested play. Just all year, I think we're gonna be saying, "Wow!" And look at I didn't see a hole there for the ball to go through. I didn't know there was a window there, and he's just gonna be ripping it through and putting on a show on offense.
Real quick on Corey Davis, then we could talk more about Rodgers, and I want to get your thoughts on the Garrett Wilson to Aaron Rodgers combo. We're going to see a lot, injury aside, God willing, this season. Corey Davis, I mean, a lot of rumors of him being cut, a lot of rumors of him being traded all offseason. He's seemingly on this team. Your thoughts on what Corey Davis could obviously do with Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball?
Yeah, I kind of like him for what I think his role is going to be. I think he's going to end up being the third wide receiver in this lineup here, with Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard finishing a little bit ahead of him. And some people make the case that maybe he should be higher than Alan Lazard. I just think with Lazard's chemistry with Rodgers, they're going to just have that connection, and he'll end up being the de facto number two. But if he could stay healthy, I think he's fine as, a depth option. He could go up and, make those contested catches. He's a really good blocker as well. And I think that's going to be useful in this system. And, unfortunately, through most of his career, he hasn't really had this caliber of quarterback. He's playing with Ryan Tannehill. He's playing with Zach Wilson and the rest of the rotation of quarterbacks the Jets were throwing out there over the last couple of years. I think the biggest thing for him is staying healthy. If he could stay healthy, I think he's absolutely a useful, number two or number three receiver in an offense.
Mentioned Garrett Wilson. I mean, some of these plays that we're seeing, just the catch and run ability, the contested catch ability, the tight window throws where Aaron already seemingly trusts Garrett Wilson to go up and make a play. Your thoughts on those two guys and the combo they could be?
Yeah, like I don't say this lightly, but he could put up 1,500 yards this year. Like, it's insane to say that a Jets receiver could put up that kind of production because we don't see it. I mean, he had 1,100 yards last year. He's the first receiver to go over 1,000 yards since 2015. I mean, he could put up like what we saw from Brandon Marshall in that 2015 season, where he had, all those yards and a bunch of touchdowns. I think that it's going to be a great connection right out of the gate. He trusts him. He's compared him to Devontae Adams multiple times, which is just, you find yourself pinching yourself saying, is this real life? And he's just that talented and that good. I think if he's playing all 17 games, man, he's going to finish with some pretty impressive numbers.
Just the catch he had the other day where Rodgers rolls out of the pocket and then he's keeping the play alive, and then he just throws it up to Garrett Wilson and makes a ridiculous catch and toe taps, and it goes viral all over the place. Like, it's absurd. Just this guy's catch radius, his speed. He's the complete package at that position, and it's unbelievable that they were able to get him with the 10th pick. When you consider another wide receiver went 2 picks before he was there. It's just unreal that Drake London goes before Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Atlanta, for that one. But you're right. Just the ability for him to go up and how he contorts his body too to make these catches. He's incredibly agile and athletic, and I think the speed is going to be put on display. He wasn't really hit for any super big plays down the field. A lot of it was, his catch and run ability, or what he could do with the ball in his hands after making a big play. But to me, I think with Rodgers' ability to get the football down the field, we might see this thing open up for some bigger plays.
Moving to a different position group on the offense now, the running back room. There's Dalvin Cook rumors swirling. Your thoughts on where things stand as far as Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Zonovan Knight? You look at this running back room. What to you has stood out so far?
Yeah, to some, I feel like this might be a hot take, but I actually really like the Jets running back room as is. I don't necessarily know if they need that veteran in there. Obviously, they're bringing back Breece Hall pretty slowly, which, believe me, they should. They should, take every precaution there. You want him healthy towards, the second half run of the season, and don't necessarily want to wear him out early on. I know, Michael Carter struggled last year in year 2. There's no denying it, but I thought he showed way too much potential in year 1 to just completely, kick to the curb and forget. And it's early on, but so far he's got a ton of reps in training camp, and I thought he's looked good. And, maybe it was a nagging injury last year or just something was bothering him, but I think he's absolutely someone who could be a bounce back candidate this year. And, you have Bam Knight, who was a rookie of the week at one point last year. Unfortunately, the numbers don't look great at the end of the year because he really struggled down the stretch, but I put that more on the offensive line injuries, I think, than just, him not being an effective runner. And then, they drafted Izzy out of Pittsburgh, Izzy Abanikanda. His speed and home run hitting ability, I would not be surprised at all if we see a ton of him in the preseason and get some big plays out of him. So they have 4 running backs on this roster that I like a lot. They're young. I get that. The oldest one is Michael Carter, and he's going into his 3rd year. He's the vet of the group, but I like this group. I think they could be effective, even bringing on Breece Hall slowly to start the season.
Speaking of the preseason, perfect segue because Matt O'Leary, you and I are headed to Canton, Ohio to watch Darrelle Revis and Joe Klecko be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll be at the Hall of Fame game on Thursday, and then Friday night, we have a spot reserved for all Jet fans. Jersey's Sports Grill, the Belden Village location. The address you see is there on the screen for everyone. So Friday night, 8 p.m. to midnight. And Matt, you picked the spot. So all the pressure is on you for everyone attending this meetup to have the best time ever.
Yeah, expectations are high, but I perform my best when the expectations are high and the pressure's on. I am confident in my pick. It's going to be an absolute great time. We have a nice spot in their outdoor area in the parking lot. There's going to be a big band playing. Fans will have access to all 4 rooms. It's like a big party, and they have multiple rooms at the venue. You'll have access, a bracelet to get into any of the 4 rooms, but we'll have our main spot, a few tables reserved outside. Where it'll be kind of roped off. We'll have our own little section and have some fun.
It's going to be wild, man. I'm concerned about Boy Green. I feel like that guy's going to put back a lot of brewskis that Friday night.
Yeah, I mean I feel like that would be on brand, but we're gonna have a good time. There's a lot of people coming. There's maybe some surprise guests, so I can't wait to just hang out with you guys. I know I met you in Houston down a couple of years ago. I haven't met Boy Green yet in person though, and it's always great meeting Jet fans and getting to talk ball.
Yeah, can't wait, man. It's going to be fun. And if you think about it, like it is approaching so soon. Like all these training camps are opening around the league today. And like here are the Jets. The pads are already on. And we're almost at a week until the Jets will start playing real football. Like next Thursday, August 3rd, is when that preseason game against the Browns will get underway. And I have to imagine there'll be no one of real significance as far as starters playing in that one. But I do think we're going to see Zach Wilson in that one. So that's going to be intriguing if you're a Jet fan trying to say, hey, does Zach have his footwork down? Is his confidence back? So there are some storylines for sure with that first Hall of Fame game coming up.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a little bit of a nerd, so I love watching the preseason and seeing who's going to make the back end of the roster and who is someone who can maybe be fighting for a bigger role. So that's something that we're going to take out of it. As you said, like you're not going to see Rodgers, you're not seeing Sauce or Garrett or any of that stuff. But football is football, man. We've been itching for this for so long. It's been a crazy offseason and adding Aaron Rodgers, and there's been a ton of hype, and it just feels like we've been waiting in anticipation. And you get that. You finally get the return of football on Thursday night. We'll have a good time Friday, and then Saturday, the induction, getting Revis and Klecko into the Hall. It's going to be a great weekend for the New York Jets.
Can't wait, my friend. Now, a couple other things I want to ask you about before we open it up to some Q&A. Jermaine Johnson getting a lot of hype from people that have been at these training camp practices. You heard Quentin Williams rave about the work he put in the offseason to come back and transform his body. He's got a new number. He's going back to the number 11 he wore in college, and that Mims is gone. Your thoughts on the hype surrounding Jermaine Johnson? Are you buying it?
Yeah, I definitely am. I mean, he was a first-round talent for a reason. If you remember, going back to that draft class, people thought he was going to go in the top 10. There was discussion of him being the pick at pick number 4, and then they get him all the way back in the 20s and, moving up. It was, a great trade up from Joe Douglas to land him. And he was a little bit of an afterthought last year with just how good Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson was. And then you had Breece Hall, who was taken right after him, and he had a ton of hype. But I thought he showed signs as a first-year player. He was really good against the run. He had a couple of big moments. The Josh Allen sack obviously is going to stand out from his play last year. But these pass rushers, it usually takes them a few years. That's not necessarily a position where guys come in and are dominant right away, unless you're like, I don't know, just an absolute freak like a Myles Garrett coming out of college. But I think he's going to get a bigger role this year. He's deserving of it. The new number, I think rocking the 11 is going to help too. Love that for him. But I'm excited. I think he gets more playing time, and I think he does well with it.
It's funny because the Jets, took all those pictures on the first day that they reported to camp in the throwback jerseys. And I guess no one told Jermaine Johnson that Mims was about to get traded that night because he's wearing 52 in all the throwback photos. So it's like, oh, man, if they just waited a day, you'd be able to take the picture in the number 11 jersey.
Yeah, go figure, right? They just missed out on that opportunity there to be rocking the 11. But Yeah, I can't wait to see him on the field, man. This defensive line is just so unbelievable. It's absurd when you go through and see all the talent there. And as a rookie, he was definitely more a part of the rotation, playing a smaller percent of the snaps, but that is going to go up this year for sure.
Are you expecting, to get anything from a guy like Will McDonald this year? Or is he going to kind of be in the Jermaine Johnson role where his snaps are going to be limited? Like, how do you think it all kind of comes together with McDonald and Johnson and Huff and Lawson? They got so many guys that could rush the quarterback. I think that's a big reason why they're using Clemens more inside. It's like, this guy's a good football player. We need to get him on the field, but we can't play him at end. So let's use him up the middle if need be. Like, what are your thoughts just on the entire breakdown of this Jets defensive line?
Yeah, you're totally right. I think with Clemens putting on a little bit extra weight and moving him inside, that makes sense when you consider everything they have on the edge. With Will McDonald, I think he'll play similar snaps to what we saw from Jermaine Johnson last year. I think he might end up with maybe like one more sack or a half more sack, just a touch more production there as a pass rusher, because he's more of that, speed rusher off the edge, where Johnson, I think Johnson's better against the run than McDonald, and he could get after the quarterback, but it's more like he gets sacks because of his motor and just the tenacity, where the bend and the speed of Will McDonald, I think, is going to maybe inflate some of his pass rushing numbers a little bit. So he might look like the more efficient and effective pass rusher early on in his career, which is fine. But they have the ability to mix and match. They got to get Bryce Huff on the field too. He was their most efficient pass rusher, especially on third downs. And don't sleep on Carl Lawson. I thought he was pretty good last year. And, first year after the Achilles injury, being able to produce like that, I think another year and a clean bill of health, I think we're in for a big year with Carl.
You look at just the night that they actually took Will McDonald. I'll never forget watching you guys on the live stream with Ryan and Green Bean, and the reaction was like, wait, what, who? And like, you guys were just befuddled. And no one had any idea the Jets liked this guy as much as they did. So that was hilarious that night watching that video back.
Yeah, I think that Will McDonald was the biggest kept secret by the New York Jets. Everything was, the offensive tackles, and once they were gone, it was like, I guess it's going to be Jackson Smith and Jigba, which is something that a lot of fans wanted. Like, just round out this wide receiver room and let's go, all offense here. And then they go Will McDonald, a position of strength, but it makes sense why Robert Saleh likes him so much with the speed that he has, and they love getting after the quarterback, and McDonald's going to help that.
Before we open it up to your comments and your questions for Matt O'Leary, Matt, is there anything you think we maybe missed? Any other takeaways that you have from what has occurred at Jets camp so far through the first 4 practices? And of course, the pads come on in about 20 minutes from right now.
Love it. Yeah. For me, with Denzel Mims gone, I'm very interested to see who gets that wide receiver 6 spot. And I'm banging the drum for Jason Brownlee. I think he's been impressive so far in camp. He had a really nice catch on a Zach Wilson throw in order to go up and get it. And, Aaron Rodgers has said a couple of times and credited him for his work in the offseason, mentioned him by name. So I think he has the inside track to make this roster. And as a UDFA, I always like those storylines of someone who went undrafted and then is able to make the team. So Jason Brownlee's my guy there.
He looks good, man. Like, obviously, it's practice and whatnot, but, he's got a cool backstory. He's played a lot of college football, bounced around a little bit, but he's a big body wide receiver, could go up and make a play, and he plays special teams, which Mims didn't. So I already kind of feel like he adds more to this team than Denzel Mims ever did.
Yeah, exactly. And the special teams is more of a natural fit because he did it in college so well. I'm sure the Jets, in the preseason a couple of years ago, or maybe it was last year, I feel like they tried to get Denzel on the field in special teams and it just wasn't working. It's, with Brownlee, like you said, it's more of that natural fit, and he's a big body receiver, so he can get up, go up and get the football too.
No question about it. So we'll open it up right now to some of your questions for Matt O'Leary. Super Chats will go first. Before we get into it, a reminder, you have to book your stay at the beautiful Circa Resort and Casino for the Jets and the Raiders weekend on November 12th. Here's all the information you need to know about why it's going to be such an incredible weekend if you're staying at Circa. If you are planning on going to Las Vegas for the Jets and the Raiders on November 12th on Sunday Night Football, you need to stay at Circa Resort and Casino. Use my promo code JAKE15 to get a discount, and that discount also includes a 2-hour open bar party that I'm going to be throwing at Circa Saturday before the game. Can't wait to meet so many of you in person. listen. It's going to be an incredible weekend. That promo code is live for those who want to go. Check it out, folks. Circa Resort and Casino, promo code Jake15. It's going to be a wild one. If you're going to a road game this year, that to me is the game to go to. Matt, are you going to any road games? Have you locked anything in while we do a little schedule talk? I'm going to Dallas week 2, and the Vegas game, I think, is week 10. Those are the 2 road games I'm committed to, and who knows what else could be in store.
There you go. Yeah, not yet. I have not gotten any road tickets, but if I did have my choice or my preference, the Vegas one has to be number 1 on the list. So I'm with you. And if I do decide last minute to pull the trigger, going with Circa, of course.
There's a weird comment here from Nino who says, I'm trying to support you and you have all these weird ads on here. I don't know what to tell you, man. If you don't think staying at the most insane casino and resort for a football weekend where they have the largest outdoor sports book and the largest indoor sports book, a beautiful steakhouse, incredible rooms, great table games. If you think that is somehow a weird ad, plus I'm offering an open bar for anyone who actually is making the trip and staying at Circa. If you think that is somehow a weird ad, Nino, I don't know what to tell you. I happen to think it's a really cool ad, and it's why I'm so thrilled that we're going to have this huge meetup in Vegas. But you do you, Nino.
Yeah, let me help you, right? Like we're trying to help you have a better time if you want to make the trip.
I don't know what weird ad that is, but all right, you're entitled to your opinion. Here we go. Let's get to some questions for Matt O'Leary here before we get out of here. This first one is from Jim, who wants to know, do you think the domestic abuse question is keeping the Jets from signing Dalvin Cook? So these are obviously all allegations. There's been no criminal charges. I think there's a civil lawsuit pending right now. Your thoughts on that situation, Matt, and do you think that has any impact on why Dalvin Cook remains a free agent on July 25th?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could, right? Like if someone of that caliber you would think would have been signed already by now, maybe that is a red flag and they're kind of waiting it out. Don't love the allegations. I think that's, tough. And obviously we'll see how some of this stuff plays out. But, the Jets have done a really good job of building a culture here with Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas. And, they're a very easy team to root for. There's a lot of, good guys on this team as well as good football players. And while, there's no question that Dalvin Cook is a talented football player, but that could very well be the red flag that is holding this thing back. We'll see. I think he plays somewhere this year. Maybe it's with the Jets, but as I mentioned, they seem to value good culture fits and the locker room presence. So maybe not.
It's funny because yesterday Boy Green came on the show and he was teasing something with Dalvin Cook and nothing ended up happening. So I'm still dying to know what the deal is with Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, and Dalvin tweeted the eye emojis. What I guess that was on Sunday night. So I thought, here we go. It's going to happen. He's going to sign with the New York Jets. But another day has gone by and nothing.
No doubt about that. All right, some super chats to get to. This first one is from Rat Diddy. He says, Jake and Matt, breaking news, Saquon signed a 1-year, $11 million deal. What do you think Cook gets now? And by the way, the Saquon deal, it's $11 million if he hits some incentives. Like the Giants basically gave him an extra $900K for him to show up to camp because he had no other choice. Like they handled that perfectly as far as using the leverage against Saquon. And I don't think the Saquon, no way Dalvin Cook was ever going to get more than what the franchise tag money was, which was $10.1 million. So I don't really think one has anything to do with the other, but maybe I'm off. Matt, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think Dalvin Cook probably ends up around 1 year, $6 million, something like that. I heard, I think it was Samini was saying that he believes that he's looking for $8 million, which I would be surprised if it gets up that high. I think six is the number there, especially for someone this late in the game, right? Like I don't think you can be have a higher asking price necessarily than your market value at this point in the offseason.
Good point there, no doubt. Aaron writes in with a super chat. How do we come to the party in Vegas at the open bar? Me and the boys are already coming and staying at MGM. Also wondering where everyone is sitting. I've been asked the question a lot where everyone is sitting. So typically, and Matt, you've been to road games before, so you tell me your experience. Typically, it seems like Jet fans will try to sit behind the Jets sideline if possible. That seems to be like the unofficial spot. But you got to sit where you got to sit depending on what you're willing to pay, right? So I happen to be by the Jets sideline, but it's not like there's an official, hey, all Jet fans were sitting in section 110. Like we don't really have that. So I guess I'll open it up to you, Matt. Do you have a preference when you're trying to see the Jets on the road where you want to sit?
Yeah, usually, as you mentioned, behind the bench is the probably best case scenario for it. But I mean, it's easier said than done. These tickets are more often than not, they're expensive. It's hard to get. So, just getting in the building sometimes is a battle. So Wherever you can get in is good, but preferably behind that bench, I think, is the spot.
And as far as your first part of the question, Aaron, so the open bar is strictly for people staying at Circa. However, if you email me, I'll see if I can maybe still get you into the party and I'll work some magic for you because I want to make sure we get everyone that is a Jet fan there. But the priority and the open bar is strictly for people that are staying at the hotel because that's a major perk on why people would want to go to Vegas and get 2 hours of free alcohol as we party and watch UFC and college football the Saturday before the game. Some other questions to get into here. This one is from Robert, who says, do you think Zeke on a very cheap deal has a place on this team?
Potentially, like if they want to go a different direction than Dalvin, or if Dalvin signs somewhere else, like Zeke, I think has some value as a short yardage back. I think he's good down by the goal line still. He's not the guy that he was, early on in his career with the Dallas Cowboys, but I think there's value in short yardage situations if that's what they wanted to do.
This question's from Colin, who writes in, what is the minimum bar for success for this season? Home playoff wins, Super Bowl, or bust? It's an absurd narrative.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really like the Super Bowl or bust. Obviously, that's the goal, is to win a Super Bowl. And I think, in Rodgers' tenure, you got to win a Super Bowl. But after missing the playoffs for 12 straight years, for me, I want to see the team win 11 or 12 games this year. I don't want to see them, go 9-8 and back into a playoff spot and get bounced by, KC in the first round or something like that. To me, that wouldn't be viewed as a success, even though you break your playoff drought. I'd like them to see to win 11, 12 games, have a good regular season, and then win a playoff game or two at least.
I'm totally with you. To me, the minimum is you got to make the playoffs, right? Otherwise, there could be people losing their jobs. But I can't sit here and say, oh, they go to the championship game and they lose the Mahomes and the Chiefs, it's somehow Super Bowl or bust, and it's a failed year. Like the Louis Riddick take, I know you and I both talked about it on our shows. Like that was just absurd. Oh, win the Super Bowl or shut up. Oh, you mean Jet fans are not allowed to be excited that we finally have a competent football team for the first time in 12 years? We might actually be good for once. It's only been 12 years since we made the playoffs, which is tied for the longest playoff drought in sports. Oh, but of course, when it's the Jets being good, now it's, well, you better win the Super Bowl. Otherwise, it's a failed season.
Yeah, it's such a ridiculous narrative. That one really rubbed me the wrong way for everything you just said, because, they have the longest active, playoff drought in all the four major sports. And, to be like, oh, if you're not the one team, who wins it, then it's an absolute failure of a season. Like that is just such a ridiculous take. I couldn't stand it.
Let's keep going here with some questions from Matt before we wrap up. Seth wants to know, is Aaron Rodgers the Jets' Zava? See Ted Lasso.
There you go. Well, I'm embarrassed to admit I haven't seen the show Ted Lasso. So
really,
is this a good reference? Do we want him to be Zava?
Well, you want him to be Zava as far as on-field ability, but Zava, spoiler alert for those who have not seen Ted Lasso season 3, Zava leaves the team unexpectedly. So I'll leave it at that. So you want Aaron Rodgers to stay for the entire season.
Okay, well, yes, of course. Yes. I don't want him to leave unexpectedly. So thank you for the
there is a comp there because they do look alike.
Oh, they do? Okay, wow.
If you're gonna watch Ted Lasso, Matt, just watch season 1 because it progressively gets a lot worse after that.
I've seen your tweets about it. You're a very anti-season 3, so I think that's part of the reason that's I've steered clear.
Wow, I didn't realize I had that type of influence, but I guess I appreciate it. Brian says, hit the milk thumbs, boys. That's my favorite Green bit when he asks for likes by saying, give me your milk thumbs. I love that.
Yeah, it's so good. Green Bean he's a one-of-a-kind human being, and that's one of the best for sure.
Dan the Jet fan says, besides Rodgers, who do you guys believe will lead the Jets in all-purpose yards in our Week 1 game against the Bills?
Ooh, I'm going to say Garrett. How could you not go Garrett Wilson? I don't think Breece Hall is going to be ready to go early on, like in Week 1. I think they bring him on slowly, so I'm not going to go running back. I'll say Garrett Wilson.
Jesus Jerry writes in, do you get a sense A-Rod knowing how big a deal he is to the franchise and this fan base?
I think so. I think him walking out for that first practice and getting that huge ovation, I think that's kind of when it sunk in and it's like, oh, like God, like this is really, a franchise star for something, and this fan base is just amped up.
That was one of the coolest things the Jets have ever posted. Him coming out and, waving to the crowd, chanting his name. Like it's got to feel great for him just because it's been so contentious the last couple of years between him and the front office in Green Bay. And when the Packers go out there and they don't win the Super Bowl the last, decade since they won it, it's like, well, they failed because you have Aaron Rodgers. You didn't win it all. Where it's like with the Jets, it's like a fresh start. The fans are just excited that we're not going to suck It's like we want to win the Super Bowl, but we're not like, you better win it or else. Like, it's a totally different vibe. He must just be loving just the freedom that he has, and like just the new opportunity that he has here in New York.
Yeah, totally. Like, obviously there's pressure here for this team to perform and do well, but it's a different kind of pressure. As you said, it was, oh my God, like he only won one Super Bowl, such a failure up in Green Bay. Like, and now it's like he showed up to practice. He's God. Like, it's just completely
This one is from V-Man, who cuts the line with a super chat. Couple more, and then we're gonna wrap up. V-Man writes in, Matt, tell Jake about us seeing who parties harder.
Yeah, so V-Man is very adamant about finding out whether Puerto Ricans party harder on Puerto Rican Day, or if the Irish party harder on St. Patrick's Day. He's very into it.
We got to get V-Man to Vegas. You know,
Yes.
I feel like V-Man to Vegas could be dangerous, but also could be a great time.
I am in on that.
All right, couple more here. This one is from Gator, who writes in, assuming Dalvin Cook wants $6 million, what do you think Hunt or Fournette, even Zeke, would command, and do they look better at that lower figure?
Yeah, I think it would be lower, and I would probably be more interested in one of those other guys at that point, like a Fournette. He's someone who has a ton of playoff experience. He went to Tampa Bay and had some success there with Brady as they went on to win the Super Bowl. So I think that might be the pivot point if you want to go a different direction. Fournette on a cheaper option.
Super chat from Ryan. He cuts the line. Think about all the rookie contracts we have: DL, O line, RB, CB, LB, TE, wide receiver, LFG, fire emoji. Look, they got blue chip players, it feels like, on every level of their defense, and really every level of their offense. You could argue there's a blue chip player, right? Rodgers, Breece Hall. Offensive line wise, I think AVT is considered a blue chip talent. A wide receiver, you got Garrett Wilson. Then you go to defense. I mean, I think Sauce and DJ Reed are both blue chip guys, but obviously Sauce is first team all pro. Then you look at the linebacker room. CJ Mosley was a second team all pro last year. Defensive line, you got Quinnen up the middle. On the edge, you got a bunch of guys that could arguably be blue chip talent. So you just look at this roster right now, and to me, it's the most talented team they've had since 2010, but you could argue maybe even 98 if you want to go back that far.
Yeah, that's a really good point. When you compare and contrast the last time the Jets had this kind of success in 2010, rosters were a little bit different. But yeah, I think 98 might even be the better comparison, where they went 12-4, and so we were alive for it, but a little bit before our Jets fandom started there, Jake. So hopefully we get that same kind of magical season this year.
No question. So this one's from Wavy Guy. He goes, I'm pulling up the Canton fellas. Can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you come out on Friday night to Jerseys.
The Jerseys experience is going to be one unlike any other. Jersey Sports Grill. And they spell Jerseys very interesting, but either way, that's where we're going to be.
Yeah, can't wait. A lot of pressure, obviously, as the one hit, but I think we're going to have a good time.
Last one for Matt O'Leary here. Jesus Jerry wants to know, Matt, what is your prized Jets possession?
Ooh, okay. So this one's a little niche, but it'll make sense in a second. So I don't necessarily know why. It's a little random, but one of my favorite Jets of all time, and especially growing up, is Shaun Ellis. I loved Shaun Ellis. I thought he was a great Jet. I thought he was very underrated. And when I was maybe 12 years old, I got the chance to meet him. The Jets used to do this show on Monday nights at a restaurant here on Long Island, where they would do a live broadcast for ESPN radio. And sometimes I would go, and he was the guest that week, and I was wearing his jersey. And my mom went up to him and said, can you take a picture with my son? He's the only one in here in your Jets jersey. And he goes, yeah, okay. So he took a picture with me, and he signed my jersey. Really nice guy. And I have that hanging up. I don't think you could see it on camera, but it's right over the Just Jets podcast sign, hanging up framed. That is my Jets prize possession.
That is awesome. Shaun Ellis, great Jet. And I think he should be in the Jets Ring of Honor. I feel like he's someone that doesn't get enough love for basically spending his entire career with the Jets besides one season at the very end. He was on all those teams in the 2000s that made the playoffs, on both championship teams. I think Shaun Ellis is one of the more underrated Jets in their franchise's history.
Yeah, hard agree with you on that one. Obviously, as he's one of my favorites, but also I think that's a big key to it. I think just very underrated, showed up every day, did his job. Really good Jet.
Yep, no doubt about that. So before we get out of here, Matt, what do you got cooking up on the YouTube channel the rest of the week?
Yeah, kind of just reacting to whatever's going on in training camp. I'm really excited for the pads to go on today. I'm sure we'll get some new storylines from that. So I'll have some reaction later on today. And, just getting ready for first preseason game, things you love to see.
Can't wait. Matt, I will be seeing you in person in like 9 days. So I can't wait to be hanging out all weekend long in Canton. And thanks again for picking the spot for the Jet fan party Friday night. And it's going to be a blast, man. Can't wait to see you in person.
Yeah, absolutely, Jake. Thank you so much again for having me on today too, man.
He's Matt O'Leary. My name is Jake Asman. Big thanks to all the Jet fans who tuned in today. Please subscribe to my channel. Make sure you subscribe to Matt's channel at Matt O'Leary. And why? Hit the like button, or as Green Bean would say, give us your milk thumbs before you get out of here. And we will talk to you guys soon. Have a great Tuesday. Pads are coming on. Stand by. If there's any breaking news, we'll be going live to talk all about it. Have a good Tuesday and enjoy the Subway Series tonight, baseball fans. What a matchup. See you later.